Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and Nazis, Coincidences, Planes.
Superman!
What is that up in the sky?
Yeah, it's a Nazi coincidence plane.
You know what actually it is up in the air?
What?
And Nicholas C. Pappas.
Yay!
Yay for that guy.
Yeah, that guy. I like that guy.
I like that guy too.
Yeah,
he's all right. He's
Yeah.
not bad. Well,
You know.
hey, Nicholas C. Pappas.
Hey, AJ the Hamilton.
Hey, how are you doing?
Oh, just sitting in my house, staring at the walls.
Yeah.
I've decided today that it's a good day to reorganize my Blu-rays for
Oh.
who the fuck knows reason why. But mostly because, we are doing another Creating Canon in lockdown.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
In quarantine.
Quarantine canon.
Quarantine canon.
Yay.
And this is what you do, apparently.
Oh, you find ways to just not let the insanity slip in.
Yeah, or it's like I could do something constructive with my time.
I guess.
But instead I've decided to do something that I really don't need to do with my time, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Well, it's truly rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yes, that is exactly... Because Yeah.
Yep.
Well, dude, it's weird that you knew that almost my entire collection of Blu-rays is just copies of Titanic.
And Fight Club.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you could watch the movie more than once. I thought it was like the old DivX platform that you watched it
buddy.
and you threw it away.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
you'll get used to it one of these days.
Yeah, the problem was I kept falling asleep. So,
It's a very long movie.
yeah.
We got to start this episode out with full transparency.
Yeah. Woo, take it off.
Well,
Sorry.
it's a perfect medium for that, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Here's the
I'm
thing.
a perfect large for that.
What are you practicing your stand-up? Jesus.
No, I don't know what's happening today. I'm goofy.
Well, here's the thing. Fans of Creating Canon, we already recorded this episode.
We did.
And then my computer decided... I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm just going to blame the computer because it is at least a couple of years away from becoming sentient and attacking me back. But it corrupted a part of the episode, and so we had to junk it.
Yeah, so this is fun because we have my audio of the episode, but we do not have AJ's audio of the episode. So my vote is I think we should release my half of the audio of the Lost African Express episode of Creating Canon just to hear me talking to myself.
And it'll be great because I'll clip out all of the silences, and it'll just be you immediately just talking right back to yourself. Yeah.
No.
Out of context. I love it.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure which.
I considered for a second just trying to improv my side of it and, work it into what you were saying on the other side, but I don't know if that would work.
It would have just been a lot of I agree. What else are you going to do?
Sure, yeah.
That would be really hard.
Nick, yes, exactly. I'm doing it right now. But,
how do you know this isn't it?
So we're redoing it. We're a couple of weeks out from watching the movie, so it's going to be even more of us meandering around trying to figure out what the plot was.
Yeah. Do you ever? So I hate to invoke another podcast, especially a podcast about movies. But do you ever listen to How Did This Get Made?
Of course.
So June Diane Raphael on that podcast is always talking about how she can never remember the movies 3 weeks later.
Yes.
And early on when I was listening to that podcast, I was like, I don't understand how you can forget that.
Why, June? Why?
How could you let that go out of your head? And it wasn't until we started doing this where I realized, that's what happens. It just all turns into mush in your brain.
Well, and think about how many movies they probably watch.
Yeah, 26 a year.
That's it? In their entire life?
Well, I mean, for the podcast.
Yes, of course.
You got a good point.
Yeah. I do have a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we watch 52 movies a year because we are
Creating canon.
Canon.
Oh.
Oh, God damn it. If we say it at the same time, we have to end the episode.
Oh, shit. Well, that's it.
Shit.
Everybody.
All right. Well, enjoy that episode. Episode of African Episode Express.
All right, so that's the deal, and so we should restart the episode.
Yeah, so here we go.
All right, Nick, you want to give us a rundown of what the hell this movie was about?
Yeah, it's a good thing I wrote this down.
Hey, perfect.
South Africa, World War II. Nazis are about to do something, and there are planes, and a wolf, and someone named Emily. So put on your favorite ragtime album and watch African Express. Not to be confused with 1975 movie African Express.
Right, which had Jack Palance in it, like we said last week.
This is well, technically we said that like 4 weeks ago.
Oh, so long ago. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the 1990 African Express, directed by Bruce McFarlane and written by Terry Osbury.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you for this.
Oh, man.
This is a post-Menachem Golan movie.
Okay.
And this was actually a South African production.
Oh.
That, I'm guessing, Jorm Globus went ahead and thought, I'm going to think globusally. Thank you. And went ahead and purchased it and released it. And then the other fun fact is that there is almost no information about this movie on the internet.
Oh, God, no.
Period. There's no Wikipedia page. It just doesn't exist. It's a black hole.
There's a tagline, and that's pretty much all we get.
Yeah. Well, and that tagline,
yes.
The only reason we have a tagline is because I got that off of the poster
of course.
Image, which is high-flying adventure goes with the territory.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you might be going, well, if there is no information on this movie, how did you find it?
Right.
Nick and AJ.
That would be the question.
Yeah, and the answer to that question is we found it because, weirdly, it's on Amazon Prime right now for free.
Very, very odd. I've seen some weird movies that I would not have expected to be on here in the last couple of months.
In Amazon, yeah. Well, that's because right now we're going through the run of what is available on Prime or any other streaming network.
Before they take it down. And we've hit some drags recently. We're fine.
Yeah,
we're powering through it.
They're still entertaining for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
But they're still, this is not like Cannon's A game. This is Cannon's, like high school athlete who's going to make it in the NBA game.
That's fair. That's a good... Yeah. So let's jump right into this movie. What does it start with, Nick? Because it starts with some weird music.
Yeah, I honestly, sometimes you can just tell what kind of experience you're in for from like the first 25 seconds of a movie.
Or you think you can.
And this movie started with, and again, mind you, this is a movie that takes place in World War II, South Africa, right?
Yes.
Like, that's important to know.
Yeah.
Because the movie opens with a shot of a plane flying through the air.
Yep.
We're okay with that.
Sure.
Then the music begins, which is American ragtime. And I was filled with public domain terror.
Oh, my God.
I knew we were in for a trip because, just to be clear, ragtime, again, is an uniquely American form of music that was popular in the early 1900s. So, like, that's its era.
Research AJ here. Ragtime, as Nick says, is a wholly American music form. It has its origins in African American communities in Missouri and was popular from 1895 to 1919, being introduced to the public at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. The term ragtime comes from the syncopation or tempo of the style of music. Just as the music for waltzes are played in what's called waltz time or 3/4 time, ragtime is played in 2/4 time or fast, slow, fast, a ragged time signature. Its style is based on tempo de marcha, or marching tempo, which is about 120 beats per minute, and found influence from African music polyrhythms. One of the biggest names in ragtime was Scott Joplin, known as the King of Ragtime. He's a fascinating figure in American history, and if we had a ragtime podcast, we'd do a whole series on him. Look him up. All right, back to the show.
So, World War II in South Africa, it is not.
No. You know what? It actually reminded me of? It reminded me of Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant. Have you ever heard that song?
I do not know that. Let's pause and let me...
All right. Let's go for a pause.
Let's take a listen.
You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk around the back, just have fun. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant.
So, back to it.
What
did you
think?
think?
Is like 40 minutes long, dude.
It's 18 and a half minutes long. Calm
down.
Oh
my God. I can't believe you made me listen to the whole thing.
But but you get it, right?
Like I could hear it. I could hear it in there a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
It undercuts any sense of seriousness of this entire movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it's Nazis and you're like dun 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 dun.
I mean, what kind of movie is this?
I don't know. I actually think I just accidentally did the Match Game theme song.
Well, they're gonna sue us.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Oopsies. I wasn't trying to do that. This was... The tone of this movie is all over the place because... Yeah. Well, before we start, I just want to... Because I can't remember off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. What was the name of the plane?
Oh, you don't remember?
No, I don't remember.
No, it was Emily.
Oh, how did you remember that?
Oh, see, here's how I remembered it, is because he said it about 15 goddamn times in the first minute.
Oh, so we got the Cabot treatment from Gore 2. Cabot.
Cabot.
Hey,
oh my
Cabot.
God, yeah, it was...
Interestingly enough,
yes.
Russell Savadier,
yes,
who played the guy who said Cabot 473 times at the beginning of Gore 2,
yes,
is actually in this movie. He plays George.
And honestly, I really like him.
Did you recognize him?
I didn't. That was the funny thing, is like,
yeah.
I was like, this guy is a breath of fresh air, kind of, in this movie.
No, it's so weird, because you were ready to actually crucify him. Oh, find him and crucify him.
I could not stand him in that movie.
Oh my God. But so this movie opens up, and it's our hero, ostensibly our hero, who's the pilot Brad Stephens,
yes,
played by Patrick Dulligan,
mm-hmm.
and he's like, Emily, we're gonna get through this, Emily. It's a storm outside, Emily. Emily, you better be good to me, Emily. Emily, oh, what would you like for dinner, Emily? Emily. Emma, how do you spell your name, Emily? Is it just an M-L-N-E, or is it E-M-I-L-Y, Emily?
It's spelled on the outside of the plane, in case you were wondering. Yeah. Great, cool. Well, during all of this, it's kind of storming outside, and also it's storming inside.
Yeah, in the back there are these crates that are held into place by rope.
That's right, and we see a knife slitting through one of those ropes from the inside of the container. Now, what could that possibly be?
Who knows?
Oh, it's Nazis!
Well, not... And about this point, with the Emily, and like the jaunty music, I was like, okay, so this is like a light comedy.
Yeah, totally.
And then we cut to Nazis, and I was like, wait a second. Now I'm confused as to what the tone of this movie is.
Yes, definitely.
Eventually, 2 Nazis get out.
Yeah.
One goes and attacks Brad almost immediately.
Well, even before that, the other one gets taken out by a sliding crate. Like a massive sliding crate just slides into him and crushes him, and then slides against the other wall, and that
crushes, like, it just keeps...
That
I
so
thought
confused
he was crushed to death. It was so
I thought
weird.
so too, and then it's like a Three Stooges movie where he's like, whoa, my goodness, the thing that would have killed a regular person just knocked me silly.
Well, it comes back and it slaps him again, and then you actually see him, like, crumple to the ground, and his hand is just there, and I was like, oh shit.
I was like, that guy's dead.
I guess he's dead.
Yeah.
Fritz, played by Norman Anstey, who was the Nazi who cut the rope, goes and he attacks Brad.
Yep.
They get into this huge fight.
Great
Brad
fun
is
fight.
like tossed around. Fritz gets thrown out of the plane.
Yes.
And Brad almost goes with him, but like grabs a rope, luckily.
Phew. And at this point, he's calling out to Emily, which is not unexpected, but the result is unexpected because we see a shot of the inside of, like, the empty cockpit and dials and things, and the pedals are...
Emily, help me.
Help me.
Emily, help me.
And it starts moving as if she is sentient.
Yeah.
Which knocks him back into the plane.
Which, you know what? At this point, I was like, oh, maybe it's a kid's movie.
Yeah.
A sentient plane. The plane is not sentient, to be clear.
No, it never comes up again.
Yeah.
But she did help him out once.
She did help him out. He gets back in.
Mm-hmm.
He, at this point, is back in the cockpit because Emily saved him, and he's
Naturally.
like, Emily, you're the greatest. We cut to, weirdly, randomly, just like an old man and a fat woman in bed.
Right.
And they are like about to fuck.
They are in heat.
And it's weird because I'm like, what is this that's happening?
Yeah, that's a hard cut to something odd.
It's a weird, yeah. And then all of a sudden, and I actually really like this moment, Fritz comes bashing into the room with his, like, Nazi helmet on and his parachute, and he's like, I am sorry to drop in on you like this. He cuts his parachute off, he goes to sit down, and he looks at them and he goes, you may carry on. I would just like to stay here, but please, do not let me stop you. And then the old couple goes back to fucking.
They're like, thanks, cool. Let's do this.
Okay. And that was it. Oh, the old woman goes, is he a friend of yours? And the old man's like, no, he's not.
So, like,
that was it.
I'm getting whiplash from the tonal shifts here. And at that point, we actually cut back to Brad, and he looks down and he says, Mira, Mira. I love you.
At that point, I was like, wait a second. Is this the beginning of Juice? It was like, mirror, mirror on the wall. Don't say it because, you know, I'm cute. And, like, in my head, that
Naturally,
was the rest of the movie.
But
I did it to Ragtime.
Because you love Lizzo and Ragtime.
I do.
What a combination that would be.
Oh, my God. I would love to hear a Lizzo song. As a Ragtime.
Yeah. No, we should.
Oh, my God. I'm gonna call Lizzo right now. I call her Liz. Liz.
If one of our fans would like to reach out with some ragtime music that you've created with Lizzo, please do.
Oh, God.
Just FYI, Postmodern Jukebox has done a very cool cover of Juice in a vintage 1920s Gatsby style featuring Mario Jose. So go check that out. It's the closest you're going to get right now. But please, do submit those ragtime covers if you've got them.
And so he's flying into a place, we're assuming, called Mira Mira. And I actually researched this, and...
Wait.
Yes.
Hold on. How do you know it was Mira Mira and not Mirror Mirror?
I'm so sorry.
Because that was important.
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because there is a huge, like, super title that says, Mira Mira, a neutral African country, World War II. And it's the most over-expository super title I've ever seen. I was like, I get all of it now.
Dumbfounded.
Everything's explained now. Cool.
Oh, God. At this point, Brad lands, not to be confused with Badlands, which was the name of last week's movie, Badlanders.
Yes.
Brad lands the plane.
At his trading post.
Yeah, and he works there with George, who's his, like, mechanic and right-hand man, played by Russell Savadier.
And that guy looks like a combination of Tim Curry and Jason Sudeikis.
Yes, well... We knew that from when we watched Gore 2, but you don't remember.
He didn't look like that then.
I know.
That's the weird thing. And he had a beard in this one.
Although, I think Gore 2 is not that far. It's like maybe 5 years before this movie. So
interesting.
He aged differently.
Apparently.
And they own a company called African Express, a charter company.
Right.
And then they co-lease the space with a woman named Jo, who owns her own charter company called something like...
Trans-African something.
Trans-African Cargo, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Something to that effect.
Trans-African Air Charter, that's what it is.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Trans-African Air Charter.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes in, and George is like, oh my God, what have you done to the door? Because the door of Emily was ripped off.
Flew off, yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
This is like, you know when you're telling somebody a dream and you're starting to remember bits of the dream?
Yes, yeah.
That's what this feels like. And listeners, I am sorry, because we are going to be hopping around quite a bit, I'm sure, at this point, because I don't remember the specifics.
It's all good.
And Brad is like, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it. Yeah. Everything will be fine, George. You worry too much. And Joe's like, I'm not your secretary. I am like a co-renter here.
Yeah.
And they're like, whatever, let's go get a drink. Cut to a bar.
Yep.
We're at this bar, and for some reason there's an Australian man there.
Yeah, and he claims to be from the Orient.
Yes, his exact words are, I've been in the Orient 15 years. I know martial arts.
Yeah, great, cool.
And this was important because he was hitting on Joe, and we needed to establish that Brad was protective of Joe to some extent, and Joe had a crush on Brad.
Sure.
And then we also, in this moment, meet the bartender.
Heinrich.
Because the Australian breaks a chair in half with a big old karate chop. Which
Naturally.
Was pretty great. I guess.
To prove that he knows the martial arts.
To know that he knows the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And he then gets punched in the face by Heinrich.
Naturally.
Dude is out.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't that pay off in any way later on? Nothing happens.
Nope. You'd think that Heinrich was strong, or the Australian was there for a specific reason.
Come back.
Just needed to meet Heinrich.
Character.
Yep,
that's it. And at that point, we're done with the bar.
From there, we inexplicably cut to a English war commander raising the British flag.
Oh, right.
To God Save the Queen in the middle of the fucking South African wilderness.
Well, it's technically in Chirundu, because there's a big sign on the front of, I don't know, the office that they have.
Yeah. Well, and their whole job is they're customs. They're customs for this portion of Africa, which I just thought to myself, oh, man, isn't colonialism the best?
Oh, there's a lot of that. A lot of the glorification of that in this.
I will tell you now that we are 42 minutes into a movie that takes place in Africa. We're not 42 minutes into the movie now, but like it's not until the 42-minute mark where you see your first person of color.
Yes, that's true.
Up until 42 minutes, it's all white people, which is colonialism at its worst.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
which makes it even more difficult because this is still during the apartheid when this movie was filmed.
Yes.
So
I didn't even think about that.
That is troublesome.
Problematic.
Troublesome.
Yep.
Troublesome. But anyways.
Yeah, so they go from customs, and Brad actually reports to the officer that he was attacked by Nazis. And this actually sets up something that pays off later on, that they can't actually hear each other very well through these phone lines, because the phone lines keep going down for some reason. You know, it's the same thing about the not getting any signal in a horror movie.
Yeah, on your cell.
Kind of sort of thing. And
because if you could make a single phone call in this movie, there would be no plot.
It would be done.
I mean, it's arguable that there's a plot now, but
right.
It would be even more no plot.
There are so many coincidences in this movie, like I said in the very beginning. But yeah, so it turns out that George and Brad need to get one specific package over to Orilla Oil. That is the account that they might lose, and they're worried about it. Oh my gosh, they gotta get it over there. Along with, they have like a handful of other things. They're like, okay, the ABC Brother package can stay here.
Can wait.
This can wait, that can wait. But we gotta get this Orilla Oil stuff up. So, hey, Joe, since the fuel line and all this stuff is wrong with the other plane, you mind taking this? Yeah, come on.
Well, it's amazing because they didn't even ask her. They just load it in her plane.
Oh, that's right.
Joe says to Brad as he's loading it on the plane, no, I'm not taking your package for you, smartass. And he goes, smartass? Does that mean you like my buns? And he sort of like winks at her, and she's like, oh, God, okay, if it means I get rid of this sexual harassment, I'll fucking fly your goddamn package wherever it needs to go.
Oh my God.
I added
the internal monologue
up there,
but right.
I'm pretty sure that's what she was thinking.
I believe it. At that point, she takes off, and they're still unloading the stuff.
No one believes Brad, by the way, that he was attacked by Nazis. They all think he's just an idiot.
Well,
he's
an exaggerator. He tells
he's
stories about attacking
the crocodile.
Fought, yes, of course, something. Naturally.
And no one believes him about that either.
No, so, they just brush that off. So as they're clearing stuff out of the plane, they find this backpack, and he's like, "What is this?" And also they find some blood in the thing, and
I was expecting them to find a dead Nazi.
Well, me too. Yeah, exactly.
But they
Absolutely.
don't.
But they do not. That's the fun thing. And in this backpack, this is the greatest. In the backpack, there is a couple of sticks of dynamite attached to a bomb.
And it's you just keep calling this a backpack, and you should actually be called like a Deus Ex backpacking.
That's so true, because it definitely pays off in the end.
Yes.
But there's two things. There's this bomb, and there's a big ass rope ladder.
Yeah,
sure, of course.
To which, at this point, you would think they would take it in and be like, "This is weird.
This is
maybe
odd.
we shouldn't have fucking dynamite on our plane."
Also, let's take a moment to question how that would have helped the Nazis carry out.
Point. That's a really good point.
They're not going to blow up the plane. They're not going to use a rope ladder to get anywhere. I really didn't understand that.
That's a really great point. You have a good point.
Thank you.
And I think Brad has a good point where he goes, "You know what? I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I'm not going to use this as proof. In fact, let's just keep a fucking 5 sticks of dynamite on the plane."
And he throws it back in the plane.
Yeah, he throws the whole backpack back
He's
in.
like, whoa, that's dynamite. And he's like, it's fine.
George freaks out about it. Oh, God. At this point, we cut to Joe flying the package that they needed to deliver.
In her little biplane.
And it's, one of those planes that looks like it would be flown by the Red Baron in the Snoopy cartoon, where there's the spot for, like, the gunner in the front, and then the pilot, there's, like, one seat for the pilot in the back.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, a Nazi, who we come to know as Helmut. Pops out, and Helmut was the guy who was crushed. He looks like he's just got, like...
It looks like ketchup, man.
Yes, he looks like smeared ketchup all over his face. Like a 7-year-old eating barbecue.
Yes.
It's just smeared there and untucked. Like, he didn't wash his face. He didn't, like, try to wipe it off. And also, I found it gross because it was still sort of wet looking. Like, it wasn't dried. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten, like, a cut and then the blood dries and it becomes flaky.
Yeah, it's blackish. It's not that at all. It's like... No, it's definitely glossy. It's gross.
Yeah, but he pops over from the gunner seat, basically, and he holds just a little pistol, like a little Luger or whatever, at Joe, and he's like, "Hey, I knew you were gonna fly this plane and take my package to where it needs to go.
Naturally.
And you're not gonna go there. You're actually gonna go where I'm gonna tell you to go." Which is just crazy.
And it was about that loud, too.
Yes.
That they were discussing it.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing, is they're flying through the air, having a discussion where they're just sort of talking to each other.
Yeah.
They even get to the point where he pulls out a map and, like, shows her on the map as they're flying through the air.
Yes.
Like, you can't hold a map in a car with the air conditioner on too high, because otherwise, like, it just goes...
Also, what's a map?
That is a good point, too. You see, a map is,
and she does it, though.
Too, well, not only does she do it, but, like, the other thing that drove me up a tree about this moment is, like, he had no clue she was going to then fly that one particular package, because that's the crazy part, is the whole plane was full of cargo.
Yeah, it wasn't like there was one piece.
And her plane can only hold one box of cargo at a time.
Yeah.
So he didn't know what was in there. Like, in theory, he just hid.
And the weirdest thing is, he could have actually... This package that we're talking about is probably maybe a foot cubed, And he actually, truly, could have taken the package with him onto that plane.
Yes.
And then flown it himself, too.
He's a pilot.
He ends up being a pilot.
I just realized.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the interesting part about, we didn't make this discovery last time.
No, we didn't.
This is a fresh discovery this time.
Oh my God.
He could have just flown. Oh shit.
Oh no! They went to the bar the night before. They didn't fly out until daytime the next day.
He could have just taken the plane and the package. Because I was going to say, too, like, he could have just taken the package and walked away.
Yeah, we also don't know how close or far his destination is.
That is true.
But still, he could have found another
distance.
way. Yeah.
Oh, man. Also, too, I want to point out that this is the point, too, where it's like, jaunty ragtime and Nazis again, and I was like,
why?
I actually thought to myself, I hate this movie more than anything, but I also kind of want it to last forever because it's just weird. But eventually Joe lands the plane next to this other plane.
It's a Nazi plane!
A Nazi plane!
Sure.
And Baron van Kleinschmidt, who from now on we'll call the Baron.
The Baron.
Played by a man named Crispin Denies.
Ah.
Which that name I kind of love.
Crispin Denies. Yeah.
The Baron and Helmut are like, hey, have a seat, Joe. We're not going to hurt you. And I was like, these are the nicest
They're
Nazis
so nice.
ever. These Nazis are very kind.
They're nice throughout the whole movie, actually. Very, not nice, but thoughtful.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. They're Nazis.
Yeah.
You would think that they would just murder people.
Just off
It
them
would make
immediately.
their lives easier to, like, get the things that they need.
Yeah.
But rather than that, they're always just like, hey, I'm going to need you to do this thing for me, please.
Can you stick over there? Can you stay there for a second? I'm not even going to tie you up.
Yeah, just stand there. At this point, we also have seen this, like, fat, balding man running around the desert.
I was so confused when they cut to him.
I didn't know what was happening, and it was probably the fourth time they cut back to him that I realized he was actually Fritz without his Nazi helmet on.
Yeah, the guy who had fallen out of the plane.
The guy who had fallen out of the plane and into the old couple's house.
At this point, they actually find out, like we already knew, the package that they brought with them in Joe's plane is not the package that they need. They need what's called a Junker fuel pump. And they actually, Helmut is like, shit, I guess I'll have to fly back there to pick that shit up. So fucking confusing. So many, this movie could be like 30 minutes. This could be a long episode of Hogan's Heroes.
Dude,
and the tone and everything.
This isn't actually a full episode of Hogan's Heroes because all they needed to do was have a Nazi use his pilot's license to fly a plane.
That's very true.
Like, actually, you know,
people are so dumb. Everything is just dumb. It's not even like A leads to B leads to C. It's just, something shitty happened. I guess we have to try something else.
You know, because I think we're both having a really hard time remembering the details of all of this. Mm-hmm. I'm actually just going to skip to the craziest part about this entire movie.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump to it because, like, I feel like both of us are having a really hard time even remembering all the craziness of this movie.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The most nutso part is the fact that it comes to be revealed that the Nazis ordered this fuel pump.
Yeah.
And all they had to do was wait for it to be delivered.
And they essentially delivered themselves and the fuel pump together.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
It's one of those things where, like, the thing was that they needed to steal it before it went through customs. But
I guess
they were at a fucking airfield.
Yeah.
With planes that all needed fuel pumps.
Just steal a fuel pump.
Just either steal another fuel pump or, like, you're at an airfield. It's not like it was 1,400 pounds of cocaine.
No.
Or like one of Joe Exotic's tigers. It
was
a fucking
stick it in your pocket.
Pump. Yes. Well, that's the thing that's crazy is it's like that is not a weird thing to have come into a country.
No.
Like it's not a thing that would set off red flags at customs.
Maybe it's because it was specifically a Junker because it was like German.
Sure.
But still, also this is very confusing because what we find out. This is
why
larger
the Nazis
thing.
are doing the thing they're doing.
Exactly. We find out that they have found a way to jam or block the radar that the British are using. Because
I was unclear about that because I actually thought what they had found was a radar machine that will tell them where the British are.
No, I believe the British had developed radar in World War II, and therefore, the Germans were developing something to block it.
Hey, Research AJ here. Radar stands for Radio Detection and Ranging. Where does the first A come from? They use the RA from radio, of course. So technically, if you took out the and, radar could actually be RDR, or RDR. Radar was invented on June 17, 1935, but it wasn't called radar until 1939 by the U.S. Navy. The concept of bouncing radio waves off of metallic objects was actually developed by Heinrich Heinz in the late 19th century, and research was continued by Guglielmo Marconi and Christian Holzmeier, and I only said that because Guglielmo Marconi is fun to say. During the next few decades, Britain, the US, Germany, the USSR, Japan, and France were all secretly developing their own form of radar. During the 1930s, the UK shared its information with the US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and, relevant to this movie, in fact, South Africa. So there you go. Back to the show.
I don't know. It doesn't really fucking matter. What happens is,
were they developing it in South Africa?
Apparently they were.
That's the thing. Also, were Fritz and Helmut with the Baron when he crash landed?
Fucking fine. Because then
did they go somewhere and ship themselves back? How did they get to that other place?
Yes.
Why didn't they just take the radar shit? Because it is just in a couple of crates as well.
Yes, it wasn't like the.
It's not intrinsic.
Radar, it's not in the plane.
No, it's not installed in
a plane.
Yes.
All they had to do was steal the African Express plane.
Yeah.
Emily. I mean, I don't want to see any violence done to Emily, but all they had to do was fly
she's a wonderful
Emily
lady.
to where that plane, the German plane was.
In fact,
the stuff over.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to fly over enemy lines.
Yeah, this is a neutral place, but they are going to have to go somewhere.
Yes.
None of the logistics work.
No.
In this. None of it makes any sense.
And this movie's only 90 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to point out that it's not until the 40-minute mark that we find out what the plot is actually about, and that it's about radar, and like that's what the bigger story is. Which is crazy because, you know, only 2 minutes later is when we find out that there's actually black people in South Africa. So,
oh my God. And that is actually the ABC brothers. And that, you know what? Let's just go down the crazy moments because it doesn't matter what the plot is of this really. Yeah, because that's it. That's it. Nazis are trying to get something out of their. These guys are trying to stop them. If they're even trying to stop them. They're not even trying to stop them. They're just like, oh, shit, we're in the middle of this now.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, too, is like, well, I think at the end of the day, what they're trying to, they being Brad and George are trying to do, is get Joe back.
Yes, at this point,
And that's about it. And just to know that, like, this movie is just coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. It's like, it's silly. But one of my favorite moments is Helmut takes off in Joe's plane. Right?
Yep.
And George is like, oh shit, I gotta follow that plane and go to where it's going.
Right.
Which is some other country. And George hops in a goddamn motorcycle with a fucking sidecar. Yep. And drives in a motorcycle and a sidecar to the place where the plane is going faster than the plane gets there.
He beats him. Yes.
That was nuts. Which, there's a whole other plot line where Fritz shows up and he convinces somebody to fly him to where the motorcycle is.
Right. Or is going. Yeah.
Is going. So right now, just to get this right.
Also, there's no reason for him to know. Fritz is the most odd part of this movie because he shows up at every single point of action without having, I don't know, a GPS or any idea where anything should be or is.
Yes.
That guy is ridiculous.
And just like, it's like, I'll go to the next place.
I guess I'll follow that guy because he's part of the movie because there's 15 people in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all white. So there is a plane that is slower than a motorcycle.
Sure.
Right? But there's another plane that is faster than that same motorcycle.
Naturally.
Which you would also then think that plane is faster than the other plane. But we don't even do that because what ends up happening, and I think this is actually both of our favorite parts.
This is amazing.
Fritz sees the motorcycle.
Yes.
And also next to the motorcycle on the same like stretch of road is this car that contains the only black people in this movie, which we find out are the ABC brothers.
Which, really?
And they are...
They're going... Oh my God.
To the same place.
Yeah.
Which is also begs the question of like, does that mean that they were in Mira Mira?
Yep.
And rather than just pick up their package in Mira Mira where the plane landed, they are now going to a different place.
Yeah, naturally.
That's what that means,
I
right?
think so, yes.
Oh, my God.
And I think the only reason is because it has to go through fucking customs.
Or plot.
Or plot. I'm pretty sure it's plot. Because at this point...
This was so good.
Oh, my God.
This was so good. The ABC brothers are driving a pickup truck. That's really important to understand.
Yeah. And Fritz tells the pilot that he is flying with, hey, can you get me down and allow me to get close enough to jump into that truck? And he's like, yeah, totally, I can do that. Why not? People do that all the time.
That's a totally normal request.
Yeah, and I actually just rewatched this. This was the only part that I rewatched. But what happens is he gets close enough, and he jumps, and he lands in the truck.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And the guys driving the truck are obviously freaked out. They're like, what the hell is happening? But they keep going. And then they're on the side of the motorcycle with the sidecar, and Fritz, knowing that he has to make a valiant effort, he's like, I gotta get that guy, and he jumps for the sidecar and fucking face plants.
He misses it.
Amazing.
This is actually the movie encapsulated.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Fritz jump straight onto the sidecar?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
He has to jump to the truck first so he can make the jump to the sidecar and miss it.
It's just
like
I know. But it does. It actually does play with your expectations. Like
it does
when Bruce Banner jumps out of the spaceship in Thor Ragnarok and then lands on the Rainbow Bridge and just fucking face plants rather than turning into the Hulk as you think he's going
and
to.
Being like, being heroic. Yeah. That. I laughed so hard that he missed that jump.
It was
I
amazing.
thought that was brilliant. Which also sets up a really great moment because now the ABC brothers, pick up.
For some reason, they turn around and they pick him up.
Fritz.
Yeah.
There's this whole other plot where there's this woman who is like a Nazi spy named the Wolf, Brigitte Wolf.
Brigitte Wolf,
who for some reason, and it's really unclear, is a spy in a very small outpost.
Neutral
South Africa.
Right.
Like, it makes no sense.
And she also apparently has a previous...
relationship with Brad.
With Brad, yeah, exactly.
And she's also a lounge singer.
Of course.
Which, there's this whole thing where, like, they get into it, and all of this stuff happens, and eventually... all of the coincidences come crashing together.
Yep. They all get closer and closer and closer. And
where they all converge on customs, where basically every single character in the movie, except for the Nazi general and Joe, which I actually at that point had forgotten they existed.
Well, they cut back to him once.
Yeah, and they're all together. I have this line written down. I don't even remember what it was, but I thought it was really funny. It was broken, so I couldn't steal it properly. I don't remember what that was attached to.
Oh, and also there's a running gag of not being able to say words or phrases correctly in this movie. There's a part where Brigitte orders a Campari, and Campari, yeah. Brad hears her say Campari, and, like, willfully ignorant, he says, Campari? Yeah, okay. Well, and at that point, you realize that it is a free-for-all on making fun of people's pronunciations of things. All over.
I mean, oh my God. If that was purposeful, the Campari thing.
I don't know.
That's insane because they don't even draw attention to it.
No, they don't. But they have in previous instances where they don't know how to say requisition a plane, they conquest a plane or something like that. There's a lot of correction. It's a lot of like very Aaron Sorkin correction type of thing. It's like, no, you didn't use the right prefix in that fucking sentence or whatever. And it's like, what? Why is this the joke stable that you keep going back to?
Yeah.
They don't have much. They don't have much.
Well, I'm curious if some of this stuff where we're like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, has to do with cultural differences between like what South Africans find funny,
maybe,
versus what we as Americans find funny, because that is a weird thing. Like this at the end of the day, this is, even though it's in the English language, ostensibly a foreign film. So I'm curious if that has anything to do with any of it.
It's entirely possible, yeah.
But speaking of, like, and this wasn't on purpose, this was just bad writing, one of my favorite moments of the entire movie as well is, you know, everyone's together, and, like, the Baron, I think, has his gun out on Brad, and Joe tries to do something to get that gun back, and the Baron actually says, hey, don't come any closer, or I'm going to blow your boyfriend from here to Kingdom Come. Which, I am a little dirty bird.
Yeah, you are.
I was like, you're going to blow him, are you? That doesn't seem like much of a threat.
To Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come? And, you know, if it was, I'm going to blow your boyfriend, it would be one thing, but it was the Kingdom Come and, like, ending the line on come that made me, like, really giggle. At a certain point, I realized this is... do you remember our episode on the Alan Quatermain movie, King Solomon's Mines?
Yeah.
And we were like, this is clearly a ripoff of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Obviously, yes.
African Express does not exactly feel like a ripoff of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It feels more like the makers of African Express watched a ripoff of Raiders of the Lost Ark, like King Solomon's Mines, and went, oh, let's make that one. So it's like a carbon copy of a carbon copy of a carbon copy.
It's a multiplicity problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at some point you're like, this feels familiar, but it is not familiar in any way, shape, or form. Like,
no.
It sort of just reinvents itself. And part of the other thing, too, that really threw me off was the fact that, like, at the end of the day, this movie feels, more than anything else, like an old school theatrical farce, right? Because, like...
Oh, totally. Yes.
Yeah, because like, a farce is just people coming indoors, people going out of doors.
People and, like, having the wrong prop, or switching props back and forth.
Yeah. And that's all this is it's a theatrical farce.
Sure.
But it lacks all the humor and charm of most farces.
It's not clever.
Yeah.
No matter what it thinks.
It's weird. Another moment that I really, really enjoyed was when the Baron, who is like the Nazi leader, takes the time to put in a monocle.
Oh my God.
To start a speech about how the Nazis are going to win the war.
And he hadn't had it in for a long time.
Yeah, I actually forgot that he owned it.
Yeah, of course.
It actually made me laugh when he put it in. And then... probably 6 words into the speech, he opens his eyes really big, and that monocle comes rolling right back out.
Naturally.
And he doesn't put it back in. And I was laughing. I was dying at that moment.
Oh, my God. And at this point, the Nazis have basically gotten everything they needed. You know, after guns go back and forth, which I'm pretty sure they only had 2 prop guns on the whole thing. I think they had, because everyone had the same damn tiny revolver, like snub-nose revolver, and then the Baron had a Luger. And I'm pretty sure they switched it back and forth between people throughout the movie.
Wouldn't surprise me.
But they have them at gunpoint. The Nazis have our
Brad
favorite people,
and Joe,
exactly,
and George, all of our heroes. And then what they do is really smart. What they do is they go ahead and, because they are Nazis, and this is to win the entire war effort.
That's what I hear.
And, you know, human lives to Nazis are not exactly the most important thing.
Especially if they're against you. Against the Reich. Yeah.
So what they do is, the wise thing for them is they shoot Brad, Joe, and George in the head in this field in Africa where there's no one around.
Burn their bodies.
And then they hop into the plane.
Yep.
And then they fly away with the radar system. And in this movie... the Nazis win World War II, and that's simply
so crazy.
it. That's how it ends, right?
Revisionist history. No, wait. That's not at all what happened.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What happens is they taunt our heroes and then fly away.
So wait,
leaving them alive.
So you're saying the Nazis don't kill them?
No,
they just get in the plane and leave Brad, Joe, and George just standing there.
Oh, no, actually what they do, so that they will have further conflict, is they take Joe with them.
Oh!
Yeah!
Oh, so rather than leaving Joe in the middle of a neutral country where Brad and George don't actually care about what happens with the war...
That's correct.
they take Joe with them, so Brad and George have to follow.
Will, of course, follow them. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
so at this Jesus Christ. But even though Brad and George got there on Emily to this little airfield,
right?
Before the Nazis left, they went ahead and destroyed Emily so Brad and George couldn't follow them, right?
No, they didn't do that either, even though they had a hostage and all of the guns. No, they didn't do that
but
either.
They had a dynamite bomb. That's what it's used for, right?
Oh, yeah, they didn't use that. They forgot about that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, too, to be fair.
I think the movie did, too.
Yeah, so Brad and George at this point hop into Emily. They fly after...
God damn it.
The Nazis, and, well, good thing that the dynamite and the rope ladder weren't used. Nor they were thrown out of the plane because, lo and behold, Brad uses the rope ladder and shoves the dynamite in his jacket, and he uses the rope ladder while the planes are mid-flight.
Have you ever seen a jet being refueled in midair?
In movies. In
movies, sure. And, I mean, it actually does happen. But usually, they have the technology to do that. It's not a fucking rope ladder.
Yeah, or George being like, I'm not a pilot, and Brad being like, it's cool, just hold it steady.
Keep holding it on.
Yeah. Brad
also
manages to somehow sneak down.
Yeah.
Like, there is a huge whole-ass entire fucking plane.
Above the Nazis.
Hovering the Nazi plane.
Yeah.
And they don't see the plane, nor do they hear it.
No.
Nor do they hear when Brad gets into the fucking Nazi plane.
Opening the back door. It's not a big plane.
At this point...
Oh, then he fights
Fritz.
Helmut. He fights Fritz first. Yeah,
Fritz
that's right.
comes running out, and Brad just immediately tosses Fritz out the plane door.
It's like, we're not even gonna pretend like you're a challenge to me.
He fights Helmut, and he eventually kills Helmut.
Yeah, which, nice.
So, now that he's killed Fritz by throwing him out of the plane, and he's killed Helmut,
yes, Joe
is able to be saved. So Joe climbs up the rope ladder by herself.
Yes, of course.
Which is crazy. Although, I assume just by physics, climbing up a rope ladder in the middle of the air is easier than climbing down when it's flying in a plane, because at least when you're going up, your weight is sort of like holding it down.
You're at the bottom of the... Yes, yeah, I would say
time. So. Whereas, like, if you're climbing down that rope ladder, that thing's got to be, like...
Whipping back and forth? Yeah.
Yeah, like...
I mean,
marginally
whip
your ladder
easier.
back and forth. Whip your ladder back and forth. This is a musical episode.
But yeah, marginally easier.
Yeah, marginal. I'm not saying I could do it. I'm just saying, like...
Also, I think it's hilarious that it's not even attached anywhere. It's just flipping out in the wind, and George is apparently keeping that plane fast enough...
the perfect speed.
Yeah, the perfect speed.
Because Joe climbs up.
Yeah.
And at this point, the Baron comes back, and he gets in a fight with Brad.
Yeah.
And Brad's already set the timer on the bomb.
Uh-oh, and it's like a 60-second timer, 30-second timer. It's very short.
Joe gets up, she's with George, and they're like, oh, good, we're safe.
Uh-oh.
Kaboom! The plane explodes.
Yeah.
And Brad is... nowhere to be seen.
What a dark turn this movie took.
Joe and George are like, Brad.
Damn.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna chalk this up to acting ability, because I think they were supposed to be devastated that their friend died, but they were pretty much like, oh shucks.
Just like, meh.
Okay, I guess. All right. At this point, out of nowhere, we cut back to the old couple, and they have just finished fixing their roof. And all of a sudden, boom, Fritz comes flying back into the roof. And the old couple look at him, and he goes, I am sorry to keep dropping in on you like this. Which,
that's
honestly,
quality.
I gotta say, I was not expecting that. And I honestly laughed really, really hard. I thought that was actually a really good bit.
It's amazing bookending.
It's a really wonderful. Good bit. And then... we cut back to Emily flying, and oh no, good thing.
Yeah.
Brad had jumped out of the plane.
And he caught onto the damn thing.
And caught the rope ladder.
Perfect. Because, when something blows up, it doesn't blow up outwardly. It just blows up inwardly and then just crumples and falls.
I think you mean blows down.
Blows down, that's right.
Yeah, that plane blew down.
Blew down.
It didn't blow up.
Yeah.
Because that's the
I blew
another word
myself.
for implode.
Yes,
you blow down. Yeah. And at this point, Brad makes it all the way up the rope ladder.
No, he doesn't. No, you're wrong.
He's reunited with George.
No, that doesn't happen. They didn't shoot that.
Oh, so you mean the movie ends with Joe
with no
and
resolution,
George flying through the air, thinking their good friend is dead.
That's correct.
And Brad is just whipping around on a rope ladder?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
I mean, why wouldn't that be the way it goes?
You would have thought that the reunion would have been a nice moment.
No. We don't need that. That's the 90 minutes, man. You gotta cut it off.
No, but listen, because here's the thing is, Joe, throughout the entire movie, like 9 different times, goes, "Damn you, Brad Stevens." So what you're saying is they missed the opportunity for George and Joe to be beside themselves crying.
Sure.
Brad stepping into the cockpit and being like, "What did I miss?"
Hey.
And Joe looking at him and going,
"Brad Stevens. Oh.
Damn you, Brad Stevens."
Yeah.
And then kissing him, and then that's the credits?
Well, and George could have kissed him, too. They could have had a whole threesome up in the air.
God damn it. I'm actually being real serious when I say,
damn you,
I
Brad
cannot
Stevens.
believe they did not pay off the "Damn you, Brad Stevens."
No, I agree.
With him
because
coming in being like, "What did I miss?"
That's the classic end stinger, clever little thing that the Indiana Jones character says.
Yes,
but
that's exactly what it would have been.
Yeah.
"Damn you, Dr. Jones." And that's how it ends. Oh,
that's
God.
right.
Well,
that's right.
This episode
Yeah.
was as big of a mess as the movie because
Pretty much.
I now think I realize what happened
Okay.
is everyone who worked on the movie read the script.
Yeah.
And then they lost the script. It became corrupted. And then they tried to film it 2 weeks later based off of faulty memory and just a handful of notes that they took. Because that's what I feel like right now.
This is why we need a court stenographer.
This really is why we need a court stenographer in here.
Yeah.
Is there anything in this movie... Well, first of all, I want to go back to the question of, like, is this a kid's movie? I don't know.
There's no murder. There's barely any blood. If it is, it's clearly barbecue sauce. And no, I think that this could be passed as at least a family-friendly film.
Yeah. Because a lot of family-friendly films feature Nazis that are fun and silly.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Lots of them.
I mean, I say that because, what's interesting is, like, I would actually say that Raiders of the Lost Ark is kind of a family-friendly film.
Yeah.
The ending's a little terrifying, so maybe not like little kids.
Right.
But at least the Nazis in that are bad, and they're not likable.
No, you're right.
And they're not fun. And they actually are evil.
Yeah. No, that's very true.
They're not.
No, they're goofy.
And in Raiders, when the Nazis, like, leave Indiana Jones to die, or like, they leave him alive, they leave him alive in a pit of snakes where they think he's going to die.
Right.
Or other things like that. Like, when they leave him, they're not like, "All right, see you later, bye-bye," and, like, waving.
Yeah.
They actually leave him in a place where they think he's gonna die, and then they're surprised when he isn't.
Sure.
Dead.
These guys are really too nice.
Yes, well, Jesus Christ.
And hey, well, we didn't think about Sound of Music. That's a Nazi movie.
That is true. I don't know why. Are we
A family-friendly movie.
Oh, okay. I thought we were just now naming Nazi movies.
No, I could name a lot.
I don't want to.
I don't either.
So,
Jojo Rabbit.
What would you... Dead Snow. What would you, in this movie... Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS.
There you go.
What would you, in this movie, steal? Is there anything that you would steal?
Honestly, I can't... If you can't afford it, use public domain music,
Don't ever do that.
Don't ever...
You're better off with a soundless film.
Oh my God, seriously. You figure out Foley or something and work with that. No, I don't know. I liked sometimes the playing with expectations. When they did it right, they did it right.
Like when Fritz jumped from the... That scene was actually really...
I love
because he hit the ground so hard.
Goddamn hard. I feel so bad for that stunt man.
Oh.
And, I don't know. Nothing else. Go ahead.
Wow.
I don't know. There's not much.
So, so I think there's 3 things for me. One is... I actually really liked the bit with the old man and the fat woman. I found it really funny.
Sure.
I liked that it came back around. We had seen them in the beginning, and by the end of it, you completely forget that they exist.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize that when Fritz is thrown out of the plane a second time that he's wearing a parachute, which I thought, again, expectation-wise, that was actually a really funny bit.
Yeah.
When he came through that ceiling again, I laughed pretty hard. I was like, that was good.
Yeah.
I also think that, I have to say, it was not used well in this.
Okay.
But I did enjoy the fact that the dynamite and the rope ladder are set up so early, and then they do pay off in some way at the end. I wish
you could do it more clever. You could absolutely make it
I
more
wish
intrinsic to the beginning of the movie.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is like they are random tools used for the climax of the movie.
Sure.
Where I wish they could have been tools that could have been used for the opening of the movie, like the cold open, that could have then also be used for the climax, because that would have been clever rather than I don't know why this is here.
No.
And then the one last thing that I would steal is I actually like the idea of like an old school theatrical farce as a movie if it's done right. This was definitely not done right, but I would have enjoyed that a little bit more. I just think there's room to steal that and use that properly. They did not, but
no.
I think there is room to do that.
I just remembered one other thing that I wanted to learn from but not steal. And that would be, in this movie, it's almost boring. It's not bad, it's boring. Because they do this thing where they keep resetting up what is happening. Like, none of the scenes...
It feels like the Memento of movies, but I'm the one with amnesia, and they have to keep reminding me what's going on.
Right, and also, funny enough that you say Memento, because the momentum is stopped each time at the beginning, because they keep establishing people driving up to a spot. Even though the next scene is starting in motion, it's not actually motion that we care about or is needed.
Well, it's not. It's nothing starts in media res, right? Everything is like, rather than
shot, establishing driving shot,
Yeah, rather than all of a sudden just like Helmut breaks into a place and he's like, give me the such and such, we have to see Helmut get in the car, drive, get into the place, get out of the car, walk up to the door, open the door, and then through all of that we're cutting back and forth what the people are doing inside.
I wonder if they cut a bunch of stuff out of this, but they just cut the wrong shit to get it to 90.
That's a great question.
You know?
Well, that could be interesting, too. Like, did they cut a bunch of, like, cultural references that were South African-specific that we did not understand?
Yeah.
Did you like this movie? Would you recommend watching it?
It was fine. I don't think it was fun enough.
Yeah.
I think honestly, this would be one where I would do a highlights reel. You know, a couple of funny things.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, about 42 minutes in the movie. Just let's fast forward to that, because I believe that is when, right around there is when Fritz makes that jump, and it's hysterical.
Yeah. Quality.
Oftentimes, I wonder if some of these quarantine movies that we're watching would be more enjoyable if we were sitting next to each other, like laughing out loud, pointing at the screen, and being like, "What the fuck was that?" You know, because there is something enjoyable about that.
Sure.
And you know, what's tough is, like, I don't think this is like Badlanders, where Badlanders in and of itself was, like, super stupid and silly, and it's not great, but everyone's giving it their all.
Sure.
And it's just not coming together well, which I think is fun.
Or they don't have the
budget,
or the expertise, or
which I think could be a lot of fun.
Yes,
and I think
definitely.
I tend to like those kinds of things. I think this one was just sort of like incompetence in writing.
Yeah, it definitely started with the writing. That's a big problem. Because nobody thought about the motivations or logistics of mainly any of this.
Literally, all the Nazis had to do was wait for the package to be delivered, and the movie would have been over.
Yes, exactly.
There is no reason for all of this other stuff. No. And some of that could have just been explained of like, oh, we're not allowed to take German air pumps.
Sure.
I mean, like, literally, you do that, and you're like, okay, I get it. You know, a couple of things.
And even, honestly, even if it was done through the exposition when they meet the Baron out in the desert,
sure,
it would have made a lot of sense, because that's the perfect time to be like, why are you doing this? Or Joe could have questioned the logistics, and they could have explained it.
Exactly. Any of that could have worked, and they just sort of missed the ball every single time.
Yeah.
And I find that frustrating.
Me too.
Like, it's one thing if the goalposts keep moving. It's another if I don't know what the goalposts are or how to score. Right?
Sure,
like
sure.
that's in many ways I found that to be really frustrating with this movie. So
yeah.
You know, I don't know if this is one that I would say, like, hey, it's a great time, watch with your friends. This is more of like a, you know...
It might be a good lesson one, you know?
It could be. Or, like, just skip to that 42-minute mark, watch for, like, 42 minutes to 47 minutes, laugh, and then go away.
Yeah, it's like 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
That scene.
That's it.
Oh, man. Well, okay. That was African Express.
Take dose!
Take dose. And also, not African Express Airways, as I found out, which is actually an African
cargo company.
They have commercial flights. Yeah, leisure travel, business. Huh. It was established in 1986. The fleet size is 7. It's got a destination of 30 places, so that's fun. Yeah. So there you go. All right.
There we go.
You know what? I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to have to answer it. Quilp? Nick?
Yes. Mr. Hamilton?
What's next time?
Well, AJ, I figure we are going from a movie that is ostensibly for adults, but seemed like a children's movie with African Express.
All right.
We're going to flip the script on that, and we are going to watch what is essentially a children's movie that is clearly for adults. It's a cannon fodder episode. It's not a canon film, but it is our Christmas episode. And I feel like this year we are going to spend Christmas. Last year we had a Black Christmas.
Oh, yes.
With, Margot Kidder and whatnot. This year we are going to, depending on where you're from, either play some deadly games, or we are going to dial code Santa Claus, or we might just, in the original French, 3615 code Pierre Noël.
Oh.
Which is, I'm super stoked. This movie is a 1989 film.
I've heard of this film because it's just had a resurgence in the last couple of years in America, right?
Well, yeah, it was never released in America. It was one of those things. It was never shown in America, and it wasn't until 2018 at Fantastic Fest in Austin that they decided to show the movie.
Hell yeah.
And it went off like gangbusters. I was very fortunate to see it in 2019 at the New Beverly, paired with Home Alone. It was a double feature. Great night.
Oh, interesting.
And that's especially funny. You should tune into the next episode to see why that's such a good double feature. But yeah,
very cool.
I am super stoked. If you are a Blu-ray fan, Vinegar Syndrome just released a 4K Blu-ray of it.
Hell yeah.
And then, of course, there's the regular Blu-rays. I highly recommend tracking this movie down and watching it. So there it is. Dial Code Santa Claus, a.k.a. Deadly Games.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah!
Deck the halls with deadly games. Or something. Well, okay. Looking forward to that. That's going to be the next time that you hear us. We will be talking about that.
Hopefully we have not had to re-record that.
My God.
My God.
My brain is mush. It's like refried beans, honestly. Like, we had to refry it.
Refried
Although,
brains.
I love refried beans, so there's no reason... That's a bad comparison, because this was negative.
No. Here is the thing. Refried beans make you gassy. This movie makes me gassy-ish, metaphorically.
That's fair. Brain farts.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You know what? I don't even think... We just need to leave.
We do.
That's it. We got to get out of here as fast as possible.
All right.
Follow... Brain farts.
Follow Nick at Nicholas C. Pappas. And also he has that website, nicholascpappas.com.
Which is forever
under construction. I'm at the AJ Hamilton, and you can email us at creatingcanon@gmail.com. That's CANNON, and you can do at Creating Canon, that's CANNON again, on the Twitters and Instagrams. And as we always say, after those brain farts, good night and good canon. I'm glad we didn't brain fart on that.
I know. My lord.
All right.
That was a tough one.
That was really tough. Oh, wait.
Nice. Did you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine recently?
No, Nine-Niner?
Oh, really? I think your head's got a thick candy shell.
Your head's got to put me over here so I'm not too distracted by how good I look.
Is that what you're going with?
It's 65 episodes or something. We've never had to do that.
Oh, no. I hated that. What are you laughing at so hard? What did you do?
In times like this, that's a compliment.
Damn you, Brad Stevens.
Richard, what's happening?
You look like the backside of an undercooked pancake.
Welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts, god damn it.
Creating Canyon?
I love it.
Let me try that again, because I think I said Creating Canyon.
You did. Kind of like in Tailspin.
He's balloon plane.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually don't remember. Offering, I guess. Hold on.
Nice. First of all, how dare you...
Actually, what I said was 9-9ers soon? Or recently?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
No, I know. Again?
Yes, again.